anyone who does not know Dane, he is Steve and Brenda's son. He is the son of this house, even though he is not here. Him and his wife, Paige, like I said, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So let's welcome him to come on up. This is not normal. Be liberty. Go, buddy.
Woo! Good morning. I don't know how I can follow after that praise and worship, but hallelujah. Wow. God, it's just, God's amazing. Honestly. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all, I'm not well-versed in this book right here. I open it and God gives me scripture as I go. I don't never have one place in particular that I ever go to, but He always seems to provide whatever I need whenever I need to hear it. And last Sunday, to my surprise, well, let me back up for a second. For the past 6 months, my wife and I have been praying that He lead us down the path that He's designed us to walk. And we weren't going to church then, and we were just living our lives and doing what we do, but I felt a burning in my heart again to start praying, and He led me to start praying for that. Well, last Sunday, as we were praising, worshiping, and for the second time, because we did it twice last week. It's amazing. I loved it. Well, Mike looked at me and said he wanted to talk to me after service, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. What did I do? It was like, it's like have a pastor say something to you in the middle of service. So he came and sat down beside me and said that God said it's time for me to get up and speak. And the whole time I'd been praying, like, I'm ready to do what you want me to do. And I wasn't ready for that. I looked at him and I was like, are you sure? I was like, he said me? And he was like, it's time. He was like, he said it's time for you. And so this whole week has just been, for lack of a better word, just kind of like a nightmare, honestly. To prepare myself or to get ready for something of this magnitude is something that I was not ready to do and ready to take on. My wife and I have a very routine life. We go through it every week. On Monday, I would try to get with the Lord. I was super nervous, and it seemed like things just kept getting in my way and coming up. And my wife and I, we kind of argued more than we normally ever would about silly things like doing the dishes or doing laundry or whatever it may be. We found ourselves arguing about it, and so I was like, well, I'll get with the Lord Tuesday and to be okay. And so I went to the gym, and I work out with a very dear friend of mine, and he happened to come to the gym, and he was sicker than a dog. I mean, just as sick as you could, the worst cold you could almost have. So, and I was just like, oh well, it's okay. We'll do our exercise and we'll get on with it. Tuesday morning, I woke up, couldn't breathe, I couldn't see, I had what he had, and I was like, great, here we go again. And I was like, how am I going to prepare myself? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? And then Paige came home on Tuesday afternoon, and we got into another argument, and I didn't go back to the gym because I was sick, and thought that I would spend some time getting with the Lord, and my head was just all jacked up, and I didn't. So the nervousness kind of set in, and I started to get really panicky, and I was like, here we are, it's Tuesday, oh my gosh, I got 5 days, it was like, and he had, I prayed for a minute, and I got an okay feeling, but it's still, you're always second guessing yourself, and you're always, is this really, am I feeling okay, or is it just my flesh? It was like, it was hard to tell, and Wednesday rolled around, and the same thing. Like I was trying to set time aside, and I got all my stuff done that I needed to do. Jude and I ran around, and And we went to Avery County, and I had to pay the taxes on the vehicle, and I want to go see my grandparents, and I want to go see my dad, and just kind of do what we normally do when we're in Avery County, and just so I could get back in time so I could get to church. You guys didn't see me here, so it didn't happen. Finally, I woke up Thursday morning, and I fell on my face, and I was like, God, I've got 3 days. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And so I cranked the praise and worship music on, because we always usually have it playing anyway. Thank God for Amazon Dot. It's the best. I cranked up the praise and worship music, and I laid flat on my face until I physically couldn't breathe through my chest anymore. And while I was there, God gave me something that I haven't been given in a long time, since my days at Abundant Life. And he told me, I didn't want you to do something that you didn't know. I want you to do something that you know. And that's love. And he instilled in me as a young child, when I was 5 and 6, when I was scared and I felt alone, and when it was just my mother and I, that I had something inside of me that I didn't see in a lot of people, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't, I was 5 and 6. But he brought me back to that place of purity and that place of being scared and alone, and said that that's what I want you to do. I want you to share your love with people. And I was like, really? I was, because I was like, I can do that. There's 2 things in this world that I know is people. I know people very well. I've lived in this world for a long time and can converse with all sorts of them. And it's love, because I have a love for everyone in this place, that you're my family, and that's honest to God's truth. And so, I was still skeptical, honestly. I was still skeptical, and my skepticism finally left me 5 minutes ago when we got confirmation. And that's all we were talking about, was love and love for his people. And I was just in awe. I was like, all right, well, this is what we're supposed to talk about.
Hallelujah.
And so I'm just going to give you my testimony, really. I don't really have a lot to talk. Like I said, I'm not well scripted in this book. I have a few things that I'm going to read from, and pray for me that I keep organized in my head, because I will go off on a tangent if you let me, and I'll have to look at my parents in order to come back to it. And I actually posted a piece of paper on the wall to remind me that I'm a blank canvas, and he's here to fill me. And so God's taught me a lot over the years. Growing up, it was just me and my mother, and we bounced around. We started in Avery County, and we moved to Winston-Salem, and then we bounced around from Raleigh from there. And in that entire time, I didn't know a lot of my actual father. I didn't get to see him a lot because he didn't live with us. He was up here in the mountains, and I would come up here during the summertime, and excuse me. I would come up here in the summertime and to see my family, see my dad, my grandparents, my cousins, and because they're all up here, and my dad worked a lot, and he worked night shifts, so I didn't see him when I was up here a lot, and he he'd spend time with me when he could, but it wasn't what I wanted or what I needed, or I felt like I needed anyway. And I would watch my cousins have their, while we were over at my grandparents', I'd watch my cousins have their family, their mom and dads come and pick them up, and didn't understand why I couldn't have that. I didn't understand why my family wasn't like that. I yearned for something that I was never going to have in the flesh, at that time anyway. And so I began asking myself questions as, is this my fault Did I do something to deserve this? When I come up here, why can't my dad come and pick me up? Why can't he be there for me like my uncles are there for my cousins? And why can't he teach me what he's teaching them? Because I don't know what it's like to be a boy or to throw a ball or to just grow up. And while I was at my grandparents' and asking myself those questions led to an ultimate question that I asked myself at the age of 5. And that was, who am I? And what is my purpose in this life? And it's something that's carried with me throughout my entire life. And it's something that I've basically ran from because it scared the living crap out of me. But God instilled in me as a child and showed me that the love that was inside of me would burn brighter than any love that any man would ever have for me. And so I went through life, living my life, doing what I thought was best. I mean, I remember I had one of my friends, I think his name was Kareem. Was it Kareem? We're living in Raleigh. And I would want to give him everything because he didn't have a lot. We didn't have a lot. But what I had, I wanted to give to him because I knew what it felt like to be without. And I never wanted anyone to feel the same feeling that I felt. It hurt my heart inside to know that people could feel the way I felt at such a young age. And so I just started giving things away. I didn't care what it was. It's just like, I don't need this stuff. And, what I didn't give away, I usually just tore up because I wondered how it worked. Couldn't put it back together. But I had found myself in a situation that I just didn't understand. And so as I grew older, I would look for those same situations, and I would look for a reasoning behind the way I felt. Excuse me. And so I put my faith in man time and time again because I still yearn for that. Because as a child, you yearn for what you don't have. You see kids with other things, and it's just natural tendency. It's just a selfish tendency to have. And at the time, I didn't understand any of it. It was not until months ago that I figured all this out. But as I did grow older, God showed me not to rely on others for my purpose or my identity. That I always need to look for Him and look to Him to find that purpose and to find that identity. But time and time again, I fell short. I found myself at the age of 16 just rebelling as hard as I could. God put a great man in my life, in my mother's life, that how he survived through us is just by God alone. Honestly, it is by God alone. I mean, wow. Wow. Between Mom and I am my mother's son through and through. And if you would have known her 20 years ago, you'd understand. Wow. We were, we paved our way through life, with no one's help, with no one there but us. And I remember watching my mother cry and just worry how she's going to pay the next bill, but we always made it, and we always persevered and pushed through. And like I said, along came Steve, and I think I was 12, maybe 11, 12 when he came into our lives. And I remember one day he got in our car, and I resented him so bad. I was like, oh, he's just another guy, just another guy Mom's going to date, whatever. And, I'd give him the hardest time. And God, I love you. I did. And being a 12-year-old, the things that come out of a 12-year-old's mouth that should not come out of a 12-year-old's mouth. But he persevered and he stuck through it. And I thank God every day for Stephen. He is my father. And it's amazing what God gives us. But anyway, so I started to rebel really hard when I was 16 because I still looked to my own father for help and for advice, and I never got it. I love my father. Don't get me wrong. He did what he knew what to do, and that's all I could ever ask of him. And he still to this day does what he knows to do, and that's all I still ask of him. But I rebelled, and Mom, they had enough, and so they pulled me out of school and gave me options. And where I'd put my trust in them, I felt betrayed, and I felt like the people that I trusted the most had given up on me. And so after I'd been pulled out of school, I rebelled even harder. I started hanging out with people I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with. I started doing things that I definitely shouldn't have been doing. I started experimenting with drugs that I should have never have done. But God puts us through things for a reason. God puts us through things for a reason. He puts people in our lives for a reason. No matter where we come from and no matter what we do, God has a divine purpose for all of us. And so, as I started to rebel, I led a life of just not caring. I moved in with my grandparents. I got a job. I started just like I said, just doing drugs, just partying, living a life of a sinner, just doing what I do. And I found that I loved marijuana. Pot was my ultimate thing. It numbed me to where I wouldn't feel that burn, that void that was inside of me. And so that's what I went with. I smoked it every day, every morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. That was my thing. I loved it. It blocked everything else out so I could just live my life, and I wouldn't feel the pain when I looked at people. I wouldn't feel that love inside of me that just yearned to bust out. And so that's what I did for the next until 6 months ago, honestly. And then during that time, God kept just poking at me and poking at me and poking at me. Because I don't care what drug you do, God is still there, and you can still feel him. And he will poke and poke and poke. And he will keep poking. And so I've always been an adventurist. I love the outside. I love being outside. I used to rock climb. I would kayak. I would go backpacking. Anything I could do to be with nature and just to get away. Because, like I said, when I would look at people, my heart would yearn just to give them a hug. And if anybody's gotten a hug from me, I love to give hugs. It is just, I love it. I love it. And so I did what I could do to escape from that, and I found escape in the wilderness. And with that, I developed a pilonidal cyst on my back that caused me to have surgery. Now, this was caused by many different things. One was being that I numbed myself with drugs, and I did a lot of LSD when I was growing up too. And it caused problems with my spinal cord, which in return formed a huge cyst that they had to go in and physically remove. Well, when I went into surgery, I think I was around 21 years old. I thought I had the world. I was like, you know what? I've got this. I've got friends. We have fun. We go climb. We party. We do our thing. I had my surgery and moved back to my parents' house and was feeling at the lowest point and just couldn't wait to see my friends. Out of the 10 to 15 people I thought that was close to me, I had 2 that called me. 2. And it was 2 that I never even thought would call, that I never even thought in my head that were close to me. But those 2 people cared enough about me to call me and come see me and see how I was doing. It opened my eyes to the point where I cried out to the Lord and said, I thought I knew what I was doing, and I thought that I didn't need you, and I didn't want this feeling anymore. But I started missing that feeling, knowing that I was back to feeling alone and scared when I was a child. And so he brought me back to that feeling. Well, I started reading and praying and trying to figure out what to do with my life. And at this time, my parents were going to Abundant Life Outreach, and we were over here. I think they just moved to the Spruce Pine location, and I looked at Mom and I was like, I think I want to go to church with you. It was, like 5 weeks in, I guess, because I literally had to lay on my stomach for 4 weeks. I mean, my gosh, don't even get me started with that. That's just a whole nother story. Mom's not a nurse, by the way. So I looked at Mom and I was like, I want to go to church, and I think that I just want to go. And so I went, and they were praising, worshiping, and if you guys remember anything about Abundant Life, it was a place of great praise and worship. It was wonderful, and I remember I was actually sitting in the front row over here on this left side, well, right side if you're facing it, whatever you may have, and I remember, I don't remember what song, I don't remember much of anything except for that I begged out to the Lord. And I screamed in my prayers, and I was like, I'm so tired of running, of trying to fill this void. I'm done. I was like, I'm just done. And I said, Father, Lord, if you're real, if any of this is real and not just some hoax that we receive because we overexert ourselves during times of praise and worship, I need to know. I need to know. I want to feel you. I want to feel your love. I want to know if it's what's inside of me is real. You be careful what you ask for. He laid me out right there. He laid me out to where my butt hit the seat and I almost fell over. Now, at first we chalked it up to my medication because I was on heavy amounts of pain pills. But I think it was actually Dane Phillips that came up, and she was like, "That ain't no pills. That's Jesus. You just got laid out in the Holy Spirit." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "No." And then this overwhelming calmness came over me as I was sitting there tingling, just shaking and tingling. And it came over me, just this calm, collect feeling. And he was like, I can give you more than any drug can ever give you. I will show you what it's like to truly love. Hallelujah. And I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I was in awe. And so from there I did everything I could to be with the Lord. I mean, I was there on Tuesdays to practice. I was up in the sound booth doing what I could. I was greeting people. I was going to church. I was dating a godly woman. I thought I was going in the path that I needed to go. I was there. I was like, this is it. This is awesome. Well, God's always told me, don't put your faith in man. What did I do? I put my faith in man. Well, he threw me a curveball. And as I was drawing closer to the Lord, the girl that I was dating was moving away, or we were just moving in different directions, really. And because I thought this was it. Like, I was like, I'm dating a godly woman. I'm godly. This is it. We're going to have godly children. It's just that was it. It just you think God's plan. It's like, oh yeah, I've been doing it for 4 months. I've got this. I'm good. And things turned south, and we ended up breaking up, and it threw me for a loop, and I was not expecting it, and because here I was thinking I knew God's divine intervention or God's divine plan, and I didn't know nothing. I was a child in the presence of God. I didn't know anything, and but I felt like that I did, and so because of that, I fell short. I started running again, and because I was so angry, because I thought I knew it. I thought I knew what God was doing for my life and what I was supposed to be doing and sharing His love, and then it's like He ripped mine away. But it taught me valuable lessons. Like I said, God's plan is so divine and so amazing. And it ripped me away. And I didn't come back for a long time. And so when that happened, I found myself hanging out with the same people again. I was better. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're better. Yeah, you can come party with us. Yeah, come on. Oh, yeah, sorry, we were off skiing. We were doing this and that. We didn't get to come see you. My bad. Whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, no worries. Just right back in it. Right back in it. And it was like, didn't even skip a beat. It's like never even left. That's the world, It's always there to come and open with open arms. It's there. It's like, come on, I'm here. Let me fill your pockets. Let me give you your heart's desire. You wanna go over here and lay drunk? Okay, go over here and lay drunk. I'll welcome you the next morning with a cup of Joe and a nice biscuit to freshen you up. No problem. And so that's what I did. I found myself back in the world, closed my Bible, which was actually this Bible because I've had it for quite some time. And it didn't open up for a long time. I had started just going through life, and like I said, God's divine intervention is just so amazing. I started going through life, and it was my 25th birthday. And my buddy and I went out for drinks, and back then it wasn't one day we celebrated for a whole week. It was just not one day, because you couldn't do everything you wanted to do in one day. I mean, it's just impossible. And so we started the week-long celebration, and we walked up to the bar, and there was my wife, my soon-to-be wife. Needless to say, I know that was her, but walked up, and I didn't even know who she was, and she had a friend that my friend knew, and we started talking and started hanging out, and one thing led to another, and we got married. Still, not really seeking God, not really doing anything for God. We both smoked pot. We both love to party. We got along very well. We went to go get married. Came back from our honeymoon. 8 weeks later, the doctor's like, "Hey, you're pregnant. Congratulations." We're like, "Oh, wow, okay, all right." So we're pregnant, and we had our first child, Tatum, and still never thought about God. Still never thought about God. I thought I had it. I was like, no. I've done this on my own. I've created this life on my own. I've paved my way. I've bought my house. I've paid for my cars. I've found the woman of my dreams. I've got a child that I can show love to that I never received from my family, or from my father like I wanted to. I thought, I was like, I've got this. This is me. This ain't God. God didn't do this for me. We had our second child, Jude. And shortly after we had him, I know that after many, 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 many years of prayer from my parents and my grandparents and the people who loved me dearest and the people who would always pray for me, finally caught up with me. And God started poking again. And I could feel it. And that's when I started praying for a path. Paige and I started fighting. We couldn't get along to save our lives. And I didn't know where it came from. It was just like out of the clear blue. Like nothing we could do we would get along with. Nothing. I mean, nothing. When it came down to just doing a dish, how we wiped the dishes, we would fight about it. I mean, it was just like, what is going on? And God shows us in ways that we'll never, never understand. But man, he just shines so bright, no matter what darkness you're in. And so out of that darkness and out of those pokes, I began to pray. And I began to ask for guidance. Because I was scared that I was going to lose the one thing that I put my faith into, which was my wife. Because I vowed to myself that I would never, never forsake my wife. I would never allow my children to grow up without their father. Never. I knew what that was like, and I never wanted that. And I saw it coming, and it scared the crap out of me to the point where I would break down and cry like a child in my man cave. And, a place that I've got, because I was an advocate of going to concerts. Like, that's what we did. We went to concerts. And, I had these posters, these concert posters everywhere of, I've got Jerry Garcia hanging all over my wall. I've got Widespread Panic posters. You name it. Everything that is just evil of this world was hanging on my wall. And here I am, I'm like on my knees in my man cave crying like a baby. And I was just like, just still in awe because the strength that's in me from my mother, like I said, I am my mother's son, wouldn't let me be a child. It would not give in. And so I did. I started praying. And I started praying. And Mom and I, we'd go months without talking. I mean, months. But we would pick up the phone and it was like we just talked to each other yesterday. And slowly but surely, I found myself calling her more. I found her calling me more. And it eventually worked itself out. We had started going down to see them a little more often than they did. Of course, they lived at the beach, so it was more enticing to come and see them. But we found ourselves going down there more often, and we found ourselves talking about the Lord more often. And slowly he delivered us out of this place of turmoil. And don't get me wrong, because I still, even though when you guys seen me start coming here, when I first started coming here, I was still smoking pot. I was still doing my thing. Paige and I both were. And I remember Mom called me and said, "Dane, it's do or die. God has told me it is do or die. You are going to lose your wife if you don't get with God and get with him for real. And like I said, that was my world. She's my world. She's been my world. I love her. She's amazing. And I didn't want that to happen. So I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, we're going. Because, every time we would come here, it was a battle. It was like, it was a battle. We drive from Boone. It's an hour drive, and there was always things that would come up. It's like the kids were sick, the drive was long. We would get in an argument before we left. There's a reason why we show up at 10:30 every day on Sundays. It was just a battle to get here. It's just constant, and it's so aggravating. And I guess it was the last time they were here. I called Mom or left her a message, and I'd been talking to her all week, and Tatum was sick, or Tatum or Jude one was sick, and it was just, they were a hot mess, and we debated on whether to come or not. We got, we get off of the Parkway right there at Vaughn's Nursery, and we just hit the road from there, and we passed by Vaughn's Nursery, and we were just like, I don't think we're going to make it. We can't do this. We can't bring, Tatum in here while she's coughing and hacking, and people are trying to speak, and the flesh will try to find every way to make an excuse for you not to be in the house of God. Every possible way to not be in the house of God. And called Mom and left her a message, trying to get advice. Of course, she's in here praying her face off like she always does, being diligent in the Lord. And I remember I looked at Paige, and I was like, Mom would tell us to get our butts here no matter what. She would say, those children will be fine, get here. And Paige was like, you think so? And I was like, she told me something last week that makes me think 100% that is true. And I was like, yes. So we're going. And on top of that, God is so good, y'all. Our little girl looked at us and said, well, we need to go to church. While we're sitting there talking about it, and just, out of nowhere, she couldn't hear. She's watching TV. She's like, we're going to church, aren't we? We got to go to church. And we're just like, there you go. There you go. It's settled. And so we came. And I fell flat on my face right here on the altar, and washed my cares away. And since then, it's been absolutely amazing. It does. I'm not saying it hasn't been a struggle, because it has been a struggle. It's not easy. It's not easy. And God expects you to go and meet him halfway. He will not come and get you all the way. You got to show and prove your love. And it's been a battle. But I tell you something right now, that it's worth every penny. It is worth every last penny. I would sell everything that we've worked hard for just to be with him. Just to be with him. And I wrote in pages of notes, and I hadn't even looked at them. I'm just like, it's amazing what the Holy Spirit can do for you when you come up here and just let him be, That's right. And so it's just been amazing. And so when I was on my face Thursday, he said, I want you to share your love. I want you to share your love. And I want you to tell people what I gave you. And so I thought it was appropriate that, Mike here has been talking about a heart on fire. And so, I've always had a heart that's on, in sense, in love. Like, just with anyone. That poor woman walking down the street, I wish she'd come in here and join us. Just anyone, and there's no joy left in this world. I feel like it's being sucked dry. And it's up to us to lay our cares aside and show people what God truly does for you. Amen. No matter what walk of life we come from, no matter what we've done in the past, it makes no bit of difference. It makes no bit of difference because God has a purpose for everyone.
Amen.
And, I learned something in Bible school a long, long time ago that always stuck with me, and it was the word joy. And it can be interpreted so many ways, the joy of light, the joy of the Lord. But I always thought the joy of the Lord was Jesus, others, and you. And I've always tried to live by that, no matter if I've been with or without God. I've never put Jesus first. So I'm going to ex-nay that. But I've done everything in my power to put others first before me when I see them in pain. And that's just something that's inside of me. And it scares me, y'all, that we don't live in a world where there's more people like that anymore. We grow up, we are being raised in a world right now that I don't even know where to begin. It's just scary. It's just scary. I fear for my children going to school, but yet I feel at ease because I know that God's going to be with them. Amen. And like I said, it's up to us for us to pick up our cross and start walking with Him, because the trumpets are sounding, y'all. War is inevitable. It's coming, and and the persecution is coming, and it's not going to be easy. And if we're not ready, we're going to fall to the wayside. And God puts a blessing in every single one of us, but it is up to us to use that blessing, because we can't just sit that blessing to the side and think that it's going to be okay, that people will pick up on it. We have to exude that blessing. Amen. And if we do that, He will give us a little bit more. He will give us a little bit more until we probably feel like we're going to burst. But man, I want that. Amen. I do. I want that. Amen. And I want that for everybody in here. I truly do. Amen. I want it for everybody in here. And so I had written down some Bible verses, but I'm just going to really leave it at that because I feel like I need to stop. But I love you guys. You are my family. And like I said, I came to this house scared to death. I mean, scared to death, y'all. But God told me to look around while we were praising, worshiping, and He said, this is your family. Amen. And you guys are my family. And I mean that. I mean that. And I would lay down my life for anyone in this house and anyone outside of this house too. It doesn't matter. Because it says there's 2 commandments that go above all other, which is love and to have love for thy neighbor. And let me tell you something, y'all. Your neighbor is everyone but you. It is everyone but you. It doesn't make a hill of beans if we're sitting in these chairs or if they're sitting outside drinking a 40 on the street. Does not matter. They are your neighbor. It's up to us. It is up to us, y'all. So, yeah.
Well, I've got to just say that this has been a long time coming. That I just believe that the Lord He's had this day on His heart for a very long time.
Yes.
And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I love you.
Oh, God. Feel the love. All right, I want to pray for Dane, and I just invite you, if you want to just come up and join me. You're just.